Hi, it's Ashley from Sweet Dreams Bake Shop, and welcome back to my channel where I make a lot of cake and cookie decorating tutorials, as well as give a lot of baking business tips. So we are back today for another sugar cookie decorating video, and I am showing you guys how I make these snowflakes. Now there's a lot of different takes that I've seen on snowflakes, specifically using this cutter actually, but what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be airbrushing the background of this cookie. So to start off, I am using pipe and flood consistency, and pipe and flood consistency basically means it's a royal icing consistency that can both outline and fill without spilling over. I like this because it creates that nice puffy icing look. Now my royal icing recipe is incredibly easy. It's basically 1 cup of icing sugar to 1 tablespoon of meringue powder, and then add as much water as needed. You really want to make sure that you whip your icing, otherwise it's just going to turn flat. I do want to mention that I'm using tipless bags. Once I discovered tipless bags for cookie decorating, I have never really gone back. If you don't have that option to use tipless bags, you can use a number 2 tip. I recommend a number 2 for outlining and a number 3 for when you're filling it in, but it is totally up to you. The advantage of tipless bags is that they don't clog, and if you do get a clog, you can easily push it out. You can also control how big the hole is that you're actually piping out of. Another tip I'd like to give you for any type of snowflake or delicate cookie that has those edges that could easily break, make sure that your cookie is a little bit thicker. After I dehydrated those cookies for about 10 minutes, they are ready to be airbrushed. If you want to know what I'm talking about, you can go ahead and check that out in the right-hand corner. I always use a Meramist for my colorant for whenever I am airbrushing, and generally with metallic colors, I always get those in bulk because I find I use them a lot more often. All of the other colors, I just buy the standard size. What I'm doing here is I'm doing a bunch of different kind of designs with this airbrushing. The airbrushing isn't the star of this cookie, but it will show up, so you do want to make sure that you make it however you want it to look like. If you haven't seen a lot of videos before where I'm using my airbrush, then I'll quickly just mention I'm having some airbrushing problems. I have a hose that actually has a hole in it, so I'm having to hold it as I use it. Normally you can just pull the trigger and everything will be fine and it'll come out beautifully, but if I don't hold that hose in place, then I find that it splatters everywhere. Some super quick airbrushing tips if you've never used the airbrush before. You want to make sure that you are very, very gentle whenever you are airbrushing because this will come out quite quickly. All machines are a little bit different, but I always find that it comes out quicker than you think it will. So make sure that you test it out on a paper towel first, and then you can go ahead and airbrush your product. Now we're going to move on to the next color. I'm going to go for this sky blue. And I always find that the color that's on the top of the bottle comes out a lot darker. So like I mentioned, really, really light trigger. I'm kind of doing an ombre effect here, really melding the colors together. And by the way, when you are switching colors, you must run some water through it before you go to the next color. I always think that it's going to blend nicely if I just keep adding in the different airbrush colors. It never seems to work out like that. It doesn't meld together like I think it will. So I do highly suggest that you run some water through it and make sure to airbrush on a piece of paper towel before you ever go onto your project. There always seems to be a little bit of residue of color no matter how hard we try. So I don't want any projects getting ruined this Christmas. I was testing out my techniques on this first one, which is why you don't see the whole process, but I was just seeing if this consistency worked, and luckily pipe and flood consistency did work for this as well. What I did end up doing though was I ended up making a new piping bag with a smaller hole because I just found that the thicker hole made not so nice details. So again, this is the beauty of when you get your royal icing consistency correct. You don't have to go and change things around too much. Now, if you are finding that it's still a little bit too loose for you and you're not getting much of a nice detail, then you can add some icing sugar, but I highly suggest you add about a tablespoon of meringue powder as well. That meringue powder will keep things nice and light and fluffy. The addition of too much icing sugar makes things a little bit chalky, a little bit too thick, and it also makes your hands hurt and your piping bags burst. I love this consistency. I never get bursted piping bags, and I find that I can really do a lot of cookies because I don't get that same fatigue. Now, when decorating these snowflake cookies, I really didn't have any inspiration that I was going off of. I was just kind of using whatever designs came to mind. And when it comes to snowflake cookies, you really just have one rule to follow, and that's to make sure that everything is symmetrical. Because as we know, snowflakes, they're all different and individualized. However, they are all symmetrical. Now what I'm doing is I'm making sure not to let this dry out too quickly, and again, this is the beauty of using pipe and flood consistency because it stays liquid enough that you can put on sprinkles. Now I always found in the beginning when I was sugar cookie decorating, whenever I added on the sprinkles, it would kind of make the icing slide off and everything would just go all amuck. However, the reason that happened was because of my icing consistency. Pretty much all of my woes when it comes to sugar cookie decorating was due to improper icing consistency. So before you start on any of your cookies, really important to make sure that it's correct. And I have a few videos on that if you want to check them out. And to create all of these beautiful designs, there's really only two kind of techniques that you need. The first technique would be knowing how to do lines. And when you are doing lines, it's actually one of the easiest things once you get it. You squeeze your piping bag and you lift quite high up off the cookie, and then you drop the line down. Now, many of you might think I don't really have steady hands. It's all about that drop technique. If you try to draw a straight line super close to the cookie, that's when you end up with shaky lines. So it might feel a little bit weird and it might feel a little bit scarier to lift that piping bag up quite high, but that's actually what's going to allow you to give you the time to make those straight lines. And the second technique is knowing how to make dots. Now you might be thinking, I see a lot more than dots on there, but really all of those kind of teardrop designs is a dot, it's just elongated. So you squeeze the bag and then you either pull forward towards you or you can pull away from yourself. When I originally started watching cookie decorating videos way back when, I remember a certain tip being told a lot about how to only go piping in one direction and don't go back and forth to avoid clogs. And this is exactly why I love tipless piping bags. That won't happen to you. You won't get a clog even if you pipe in whatever direction you want. I dehydrated once more, which really helps your whites stay white. Sometimes the color will bleed into that if things are not completely dry. I absolutely love how gorgeous these are. Now let's get into the pricing of these cookies. Now, I find that cookies is the one thing that people are always underpricing because it seems like such a small little thing. I really can't charge X amount, but I would charge $6 Canadian each per cookie plus implement a $1 minimum. Some people might think that's a little bit steep, and if you're not in the cookie world, I could see how that could be deemed as a little bit expensive. But go to the grocery stores here, and sugar cookies that aren't even custom are $4 each. Now let's get into the subscriber submission of the video, and you guys know how much of a sucker I am for Disney. I absolutely love this cake. I think it's perfect for any princess. So definitely go and check them out on Instagram. Drop them a like, drop them a comment, and if you guys want to be the next featured subscriber in my video, then please follow me at SD Bake Shop on Instagram, where you can either send me a photo or tag me in a photo. Any and all dessert levels are welcome. Thanks so much for watching, guys. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe so you can be part of the Sweetie fam. Right now, I'm uploading weekly, so make sure you hit that notification bell so you know when I upload. Also, be sure to comment, request, or ask a question. I love hearing from you guys. Bye!